Hey everybody, it's Lynnea, and I am so excited about the 6 new colors of Deco foil flock that have just hit the shop. So I'm going to be using 3 of those colors today, the 3 that really screamed fall to me, because I couldn't wait to use the Autumn Wishes Stamp and Stencil set from Gina K Designs and ThermOWeb. So I die cut a bunch of the trees and the leaves, and I made sure to keep that little negative piece so that I could line that up in my MISTI and then put my stamps into those little like the holes from the die cuts, and then I could pop the die cuts back in and just start stamping, and this will give me perfectly stamped die cuts every time. I really struggle to stamp and then die cut, or even to die cut and then stamp without the use of this trick. So this is one that I use all the time, and you've seen it in a couple of my other videos for ThermOWeb. It's just a really handy trick. So I'm going to show it to you a couple of times. You saw me there doing the trees, and it's the same thing with the leaves. I just keep that negative piece, line up my stamps, and then I can pop the positive piece, the actual die cut piece, into those like the little negative pieces, the little wells, and then I can stamp right on top of the die cuts quickly and easily and get them lined up without any effort at all. This is the Autumn Wishes stencil from the Stamp and Stencil set. I'm going to be spraying the back of it, and I will use this stencil a bunch of times for a bunch of different things for today's projects. So I'm going to start by lining up the tree leaves onto the tree, and the easiest way that I found to do this was to line up my images from the back, because I could just stick my die cuts over top of the leaves, and I found that this helped me line them up. Now I'm going to grab Deco foil transfer gel, and that's going to allow me to transfer my flock onto there after all of these have dried. So I'm using a bit of purple tape just to mask off some of the other stencil designs so that I don't get the transfer gel where I don't want it. I used my palette knife just because these are small images, but then I do come in with my stencil palette and give it a quick swipe over the top so that I get even coverage, so that I don't have some leaves that are thicker and some leaves that are thinner than others. I did that with all the trees, and then I'm going to do them with the leaves too. And the fun thing about the pixie spray is that it holds the stencil in place, and I didn't need to respray for any of these stenciling of the leaves or the trees, or even when I use the large portion of the stencil again for the backgrounds of my card. I could just keep on using that stencil, removing the die cut and repositioning. So awesome, and I have done this before as well. So I'm just showing you this a couple of times so you can see how easy it is, and I quickly did all of these little pieces in about 5 minutes, and I just set them aside to dry for an hour or two. I moved on to my actual background of my card, so I have a standard A2 size card base, and I'm just going to use a little bit of the purple tape to adhere that to my work surface so that it doesn't shift around. I have already sprayed the back of this stencil with pixie spray before, and then I'm just going to lay this little flourish across the center of my card. I'll use a little bit more purple tape just to mask off the top and the bottom so that I don't get any of my metallics gel onto the edges of my card, because if you're anything like me, I go crazy when I'm stenciling. You're going to see here I put down way too much of this metallics, and this is the aged copper color of the metallics gel. This is my favorite color. So I put down a whole bunch, and then I just go over with my stencil palette and smooth it out. You can see all that excess I'm scraping back into the jar. So I'm super glad that I laid down that purple tape at the top and the bottom of my card. Otherwise, this would have been everywhere. So I'm just going to remove the purple tape, and that comes off really easily. It's a strong but low tack tape. I've never had any issues with anything moving when I'm using the purple tape, but also it doesn't tear your cardstock, so it's the best of both worlds. And then I'm going to carefully remove this stencil very slowly, and here is my super cool Deco foil metallics background. It gives you that shine and look of foil, but without having to use your laminator. It's so cool, I love it. So here are the 3 colors of the new Deco foil flock that I'm going to be using: the Teal Waters, Tuscan Gold, and Ruby Red. And ever since I first started playing around with the flock transfer sheets, I have been wanting a brown. I don't know why, but I am really drawn to browns and other neutrals. So I was so excited to see this Tuscan Gold color because it's that perfect, like a dark mustardy brown. So cool. So I just cut pieces of the flock transfer sheets that were big enough to cover the little leaves and the transfer gel that I had stenciled onto all these little leaves and trees. I'm peeling that away, and you can kind of see here the dimension. It is so cool in real life because the flock gives just a little bit of dimension, and it has that cool fuzzy texture to it. I laid out my little images on here onto my 2 cards how I wanted them to be. So for the trees, I just stuck the one with the ruby red Deco foil flock transfer sheet in the middle. Then I'm going to use the 2 shorter trees with the teal waters flock on it on the sides. And I am using iCraft Ultra Bond liquid adhesive to adhere all of these onto my card. And that is because this glue dries and it holds on super strong. So with that metallic background, it is kind of bumpy and raised, and I know that that liquid adhesive is going to really hold on tight. So once I have everything all glued on, I'm going to grab a sentiment from the Autumn Wishes stamp set, and I'll ink it up with a dark red ink, and then I will use my scissors to trim around that sentiment to give it a die cut appearance. When I adhere the sentiment, I wanted that to have a little bit of dimension, so I used the iCraft 3D foam squares. But just like I do in most of my videos, I'm adding more of that Ultra Bond liquid adhesive to the back of those foam squares because, again, I'm gluing that onto a textured surface with that metallics on there. So I want to make sure it's going to hold, but I want it to have the lift from the foam squares. And so I have the adhesive and the lift from the foam squares, as well as that adhesive from the iCraft Ultra Bond liquid adhesive. These are my 2 cards. I really hope that you enjoyed the look at the new Deco foil flock transfer sheets. I will see you guys next time. Bye!